And that's a wrap. That's the show.
Goodbye,
guys.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, Cancun.
Yep.
The Celtics will lose again.
This is
You
as
can't fake
much
that
as
effort, right?
this is as much as I have to say. That's it.
That's unfortunate.
So
For the
you
first
had
time the Celtics have left John speechless. Look at that.
Well, you know what? Bobby's going to say something that'll upset me more than what happened tonight, I'm sure. So I'm going to let Bobby go. Go.
Yeah,
to
you
start.
feel that too, right? Go ahead.
Well,
Bobby.
now the pressure's on to do it. All I was going to say is that you had a sense coming into today, was what Brad said pregame, that the team's kind of packing in at this point. They're in a good position to lock up 7. They obviously have some guys with some bumps and bruises here. So it wasn't surprising to see Smart kind of packed in, and we probably won't see him the rest of the way, I'd imagine. Rob, we definitely won't see the rest of the way as he tries to recover from that turf toe. I just wonder, and Sherrod and I were kicking this back and forth to start this one, why is Tatum playing heavy minutes on a back-to-back? Why is Tristan Thompson still out there as he deals with a pec strain? You're pushing those guys and holding others back, and you still don't even win the game. You said during this game that you thought the Celtics were trying to win, John. I didn't see anything that pointed that out today.
I didn't see it from an effort standpoint. I saw it from a strategic standpoint. You started Tatum. You played Tristan, who wasn't 100%. You played like I said, we can debate what the merits of starting Tremont Waters tonight. I understand the philosophy. I think you wanted him to kind of hound Sexton a little bit. That was the theory behind it. I'm not saying it's the right call, but he clearly played the best, what he thought was the lineup to win tonight's game. But I just didn't understand any of it. What's the point of playing if you're not really going to try? What's the point of keeping Tatum out there till 30 seconds left in a fourth quarter of a game that had been decided for a while? Like, why is Tristan playing heavy minutes? Like, what are you doing? What are we doing here?
With Tatum, I think a lot of that has to do with them thinking that that was enough to beat the Cavs. You guys don't think that? I mean, I know that's not what it looked like when we watched it unfold.
I think when they started,
Yeah, but I don't. I mean, to what Bobby's saying, about Tatum, I think they put him out there to obviously get him another rep, get him a 30-point game, get him going and close this out.
You know what, though?
They thought that this was going to be enough to close it out.
Joe Sway, that's such bullshit. If that was what they were thinking, you don't put a guy out there just to get numbers. That's part of the problem. That's part of the narrative that so many people have about this
for all NBA.
Yeah, but this was a
you're
different
putting
approach,
guys
Gerard,
out there
though.
to get numbers.
But that was different. I mean, and especially in the second half. Look, he was attacking. He wasn't doing those step.
He was more in the second half, no question.
In the second half,
for the first time, Brad was actually making plays for Tatum out of the timeout. I'm like, okay, great. Let this galvanize the entire team, but that's obviously that's not going to happen, right? This isn't that kind of team.
You know what? But here's the thing about Tatum, though.
That's not their identity anymore. Or ever.
You don't have to call plays. You don't have to call plays for Tatum because Tatum is going to call his number. The ball is going to be in his hands more than anyone out there. I don't understand why would you risk him in a game like this where your standing is not going to be significantly impacted one way or the other, and you are again. If you are serious about maybe we can get the gang together and maybe we can make a little bit of a push, why are you rolling the dice that he's going to stay healthy when you're already down Smart? You're already down Jalen for the season. You're already down Marcus Smart tonight. You can't play Kemba on back-to-backs. He's literally the only source of significant offense that you can count on and rely on. Why in the world would you put him in harm's way against a Cavaliers team that literally had nothing to gain by winning this?
Yeah,
nothing.
Back to back.
They even it looked like they wanted to. It looked like when they got up, then they're like, "Shit, we don't want to win," and they took Kevin Love out.
They took Kevin Love out. Like, no, Celtics, come get this one.
They're like, "Come get it. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave this W
like
here for you. You guys want to come get it?"
It's insane.
This was just like the Thunder game.
They're like, stick with the program, Celtics. Come on, you're supposed to take this one.
Yeah, I thought the Cavs competed pretty well throughout this one. Love especially, he really took it to them. And Okoro was sensational on Tatum. That's a guy I've loved for a while now. It's just
he's been doing that.
But you know, but that's what bad teams do. They compete. They know they're not going to win. They know that they're not as talented as who they're playing. So the only way that they can save face is to play relatively hard. And that's what Cleveland did. I didn't think Cleveland played significantly hard and tough. Frankly, they did what they were supposed to do. They've got some young, athletic guys out there. those guys play like young athletic guys do. They're going to make some plays off sheer effort. They're going to miss some plays because they're not as talented as you are, which we saw them miss a bunch of layups all game long. And more nights than not, they'll lose by 8, they'll lose by 10, they'll feel good because they played hard. But if you don't show up, if you don't play with comparable effort, you're going to get your ass kicked like the Celtics did again tonight against a team that came in, what was 11? I think 11 in a row they had lost. You can't be the stimulus package for bad teams to get that one dub every month.
If I'm Indiana and Charlotte, I am friggin' killing myself right now. Like absolutely, like, oh, gimme,
Absolutely.
Get me into that 8th seed. We're gonna coast into the playoffs here. Just wait, we'll take care of these guys right quick, and we'll be sitting pretty at 7.
That's the interesting thing about this is, are the Celtics checked out for good, or are they checked out until that game?
It's hard to check. When you
now.
Check out, you can't check back in. It doesn't work. It's over. You don't all of a sudden. It's like a fight. You're in a fight and decide I don't want to fight anymore. You're not going to all of a sudden decide you want to fight again.
Brad Stevens says that spoke volumes, right? When he said that they're going to have to assess everything. In other words,
but it's stunning to me.
Like that's what he meant by that, right? He couldn't say it in layman's terms, but that's exactly what he meant. Like, we have to assess everything. We have to see if it's worth it. We have to see where Marcus is, where, everyone that's been battling injuries. Why sacrifice the beginning of next season, especially when you look at this timeline, looking ahead as a lot of us are doing with Jaylen Brown. I mean, you look at the timeline, he's set to start next season, So, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world.
See, I took that more.
Think about everyone else's health too. It's not just about Jaylen resting and getting back.
You're right. And I took that more as going into the play-in game. Not that we're going to bow out of the season, but we need everybody available, ready, and fresh for that play-in game. And this next week or so doesn't matter here. But that makes it a wonder why they handled Tatum and others the way they did today.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter whether they're checked out or not, because right now, everyone that sees them on their radar is 100% sure they can beat them. And they know that all they got to do is play hard, because that's the Achilles heel of this team. They don't play hard enough to win. And the teams that we're talking about that they might have to play, like Indiana, I think their effort is kind of, it fluctuates kind of like the Celtics. Charlotte, no. They can't beat Charlotte playing the way they do. Charlotte will out-hustle them, outwork them, and that will win.
You know who the Celtics are going to look like? They're going to look like what Philly looked like in that first round. Do you remember Philly?
Philly last year.
Hollow shell Philadelphia 76ers team where
who was missing one of their key guys.
Right, missed one of the key guys, but Embiid doing whatever he wants, but it didn't matter. Even against that Celtics team,
Philly might return the favor.
As dominant as most of us thought that they were going to be in that playoffs.
That would be a funny flip if they end up in round 1 against Philadelphia and it's a sweep the other way.
So Bobby, to your point, the thing you were talking about, that we all flipped out about a couple of games ago, which is like Celtics should still be able to handle whomever in the 7. I'd be stunned if they won the 7-8 game. I'll be stunned if this team wins the 7-8 game. I really would be. And then it comes down to, can you beat one of these other, whoever's scraping in that 9-10 slot to sneak into the playoffs? And it doesn't mean they can't. Of course, an A-plus effort against a flawed team like a Charlotte or an Indiana, of course they can win. But I mean, I would – if you're where am I putting my money? I'm putting it on the other guys right now, without much question. Oh, Bobby conveniently leaves.
He'll come right back. Well,
I know.
If Robert Williams,
he's gone. He fell. Bobby's gone.
Like the Celtics defense, he just disappeared. Nowhere to be found.
Yep. That's exactly what it's like.
Why would you re-enter the room when you're not there? Is he a ghost? All right. Yeah. Anyway, I'd be shocked right now. I mean, I'm shocked if they win that 7-8 game.
And it's sad because all you're really wanting them to do at this point is to compete, play hard, give yourself a chance to win the game. You don't have to. And that was the beautiful thing I thought about the second Miami Heat game. For the first half, at least, it looked like they wanted to win the game and they were competing. They weren't pulling ahead. Miami wasn't pulling ahead. They were actually engaged in the game, and that's what you want as a fan. You just want them to show that they actually give a rat's ass about winning that game on that night. But when you go to Cleveland, even if it's a back-to-back, and even if you are shorthandedness does not – it should never, ever affect your compete level. Because whether you got a full 15 or just 6 of you, you still have the opportunity to compete. And that's the frustrating part about this team.
Yeah. How many people, and again, I know it's a personality thing, so it's hard to say like, okay, Tatum looks like he doesn't care. I think that's unfair sometimes. Jaylen Brown's kind of that guy too. He doesn't have that thing. But like, I would think the losing would affect them more in a more outward way. Like you'd see more displays, you'd see more anger and frustration. It almost just feels like it's
they've accepted this is their fate.
Yeah, and that's the sad part. And again, I know this is like bullshit media body language stuff. I'm just saying, when you're watching, let's just take it from a casual observer standpoint. If you're watching this team, do they look torn up that they're underachieving?
Right.
They don't. They look like you're very much have accepted that, like, hey, this is who we are and this is where it's going to go. And then that's that.
And when they talk about it afterwards, you don't get that sense that this really pisses them off. The fact that they are not playing as a team as well as they should. They're not competing as a team as well as they should. And I don't understand how that happens. Because when you are a team and you have a high level of expectations for yourself and you're not meeting them, and even if there are injuries and health and safety protocol and all these other issues, that should not take away from the anger and frustration that you should feel when things aren't going the way that you want them to. And with this team, you just don't see, you don't hear. There's nothing that indicates this team is having a crappy year. And that's troublesome, because there should be a tangible sign among the team that they're pissed about this.
So who do you guys who tried tonight? Okay, like if you're looking at effort,
Nesmith.
Cornette was great. I thought Cornette was great.
Yeah, you need to make that a 2-second meme. It's him saying Cornette just now.
Did you see the joy in his face?
Every game he plays in, it feels like he plays good.
I wouldn't go that far.
That's all I'm saying about him.
I wouldn't go that far.
On that note, I'm going Peyton Pritchard. We talked about it a little bit.
I wish they started Pritchard.
Before we hopped on, we talked about it a little bit, Sherrod and I. I don't know if he's still in the doghouse for those rough starts. I don't know if this is that tough love from Brad Stevens, but what's the deal?
You know what it is?
I don't know.
He's done this all year. He thinks
that could happen.
Brad thinks that if he staggers good players into his bench unit and in the starting unit and mixes up some of the rotation guys, that they can have better flows throughout the game. But what it's really done this year is gotten them off to horrible starts in these games. And it happened again tonight, I thought. Waters was not well connected with his teammates there. He got taken to a little bit on the defensive end by Cleveland's guards. And I just didn't understand it. I get what you're saying, John, because he's that defensive specialist kind of.
Thinking. I wouldn't have done it. I would have.
My problem with the thinking is that he's not in the rotation to begin with. So why would he start? Why would he start?
That's a good point. It's
not like a couple years ago. It's not like a couple years ago when you had Gerald Green, who came out of nowhere and was in the starting lineup for the playoffs. Gerald had actually played. He was a rotation guy at some point during the regular season. So it wasn't as if he was some guy that you had to dust the mothballs off of and just kind of, prop him up there and get him ready to go. He was a guy that simply just fell out of the rotation after having been in it. Tremont was never in the rotation. And yet you're giving him starter minutes? I mean, Tremont, when he has been at his best, he has been a nice off-the-bench, change-of-pace kind of guy. He has not been a guy that you put with your first group to help get you guys off to a great start. Pritchard and his shot making, I thought, could have been really beneficial. It would have given Fournier another guy that when Fournier wasn't hitting right away, he can pass it to Pritchard, and Pritchard would take some shots, maybe help him get going. I don't understand I do and I don't understand what Brad's trying to do. I don't agree with what he's trying to do. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, it's strange.
Play the guys that you know are going to play for you.
He's still
trying
to find it,
Yeah, and to answer your question, John, I mean, he tried the hardest, in my opinion. I mean, look at the way he stuffed that stat sheet. Under 20 minutes, 12 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal. I just think maybe Brad thinks he's maximizing his, to use what Bobby used to say about Robert Williams. He's maximizing his potential and that keeping.
No, that could be true. Yeah, and we've seen Pritchard struggle.
But,
we've seen Pritchard struggle against starters this year.
I know, but I mean, you're out of options here.
Colin Sexton. I mean, I don't know.
Let me ask you this again.
Give the rookie some, give him a challenge.
there's an understanding, and again, like I said, you can understand when one person goes out to not insert Pritchard into the lineup, but in a very simple way to look at this, 4 of your best players are out tonight. Pritchard is one of your 4 best bench players, okay? Your 2 best guards are out, and the guy who plays the most minutes at that position, who isn't Smart or Kemba, doesn't start, is very weird, okay? It's very simple. If you trust him to play any minutes, trust him to play starters minutes when you have literally nobody else.
Well, not only that.
I understand it when it's one guy missing and you've got your full lineup and you want to keep him with the second unit and preserve continuity. You're missing everybody. So play the guys who actually play for you. Instead of some guy, as Sherrod said, you're dusting off, who's just not out there. He's not out there playing with these guys. It's just bringing a guy in off the street and being like, hey, you want to play with Jayson Tatum? It's cool. We
need one.
Yeah, we just need one.
I got this.
Right.
We got 9.
Doing his stretches, the Woody Harrelson,
doing the corner with his headphones on. Yeah, yo. Hey.
It doesn't make sense. That's very simple logic. Like, one of the guys actually plays a lot of basketball for this team, and the other guy doesn't. So what are you starting the guy who doesn't for?
I don't get it.
Also, my God, you played
Carson.
Hasn't
been that bad either.
I said I wasn't going to get mad. You said you're playing Carson Edwards yesterday for no freaking reason at all. And then today, when you're out 40 guys, you don't bring them in at all.
How are you supposed
4 minutes?
And then how are you supposed to build something? And we talked about the amount of starting lineups that they've had this year. I think it's probably 35, 36 at this point. That's not just because guys have been moving in and out. It's because Brad has had a variety of ideas of how he's wanting to go about it when guys do go out. Some nights it's Shemi. Some nights it's Grant. Some nights it's Nesmith getting mixed in like it was tonight. And then 2 to 4 nights this year, it somehow became Waters being a significant part of not only the rotation, but a teammate to the people in the starting lineup, which doesn't make sense to me, not only strategically, but you're not building anything there because he's not going to play in the playoffs and he's probably not even going to be here next year. So what's the point?
Again, I think
the starting people in the lineup. I like that.
What's that?
That's so low key trolling Tremont right there. A teammate to the guys in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
No, but you're a different kind of a teammate.
Yeah, that's a good start. The motion.
Yeah.
I love Waters, but we're seeing it. He's just not.
Don't even say that. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to give him the "he's nice" tag. Just forget it.
It's not us. It's you. Yeah. I mean, it's not you. It's us.
What do you think of Waters?
He means well.
He's nice.
Well,
He's nice. No, it's not.
Means well as always. He's not. Just not.
He means well. He tried.
You don't want him around.
Good effort.
Yeah. Good hustle, kid.
So who's here next year and who isn't?
I might not be here next year. Can we do this again?
Oh, come on, man, John. You have.
I'm seeing the end of the
opt into the contract.
I'm back next year. I'm in on next year.
I'm seeing the Cancun, situation now.
Even if I was in on next year, I'm not doing this right now. No, no. This team doesn't deserve that. They don't deserve a. It's I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. No, absolutely not.
No, but who on the roster is probably not here next year?
Shimmy.
I'm thinking
him.
I'm thinking,
and I genuinely like Shimmy, but I
do too. But I saw him today, and I was literally like, "This guy's not in the NBA next year." Like, it just crossed my mind. Like,
someone will pick him up. He'll get picked up. Yeah,
Waters,
he'll be somewhere.
Waters and
Semi. I see a lot of 10-day contracts in Semi's future, and maybe a trip overseas.
And one of those games has to be against the Bucks because that's on the scouting report. Like he's
wouldn't be surprised if that's the team that picks him up though.
He's pretty good against Giannis, right? That's what I'm saying. Maybe a team in the East that's trying to match up, against Giannis.
And his best game of the season will be when they play the Celtics. You know that, right?
So I feel like everyone in the last 72 hours turned on Smart.
Shemi will drop 17.
It's not about turning on Smart. It's just a legit question about who's on the edge here.
Yeah.
On what's going to be an expensive roster. What's his contract? and what's his future look like? I think, again, someone tweeted me today and was like, you guys are putting this all on Smart. I don't think that's what we've done at all. We've pointed out some of his flaws with it and, shortcomings this year. But I think overall, he's actually fought pretty hard to fix this situation. He's been hurt. He's been out of the mix and off the ball and stuff like that at certain times. But strictly talking about his contract, his age, which I couldn't really figure out the other day, but now I know.
24, is it 25, 26, 28?
And another free agent.
Keep going.
And another free agent to be in Fournier. It's a legitimate question. Plus, unlike John, I do think he has value around the league.
Well, it's not about whether he has value. It's about whether there's anything you can get in return. I don't really care so much about what other teams think of it. What are they willing to give up?
Yes, exactly. That's the big difference.
That's the concern I have with Marcus. There's no question that teams around the NBA like him, but how much are they willing to give up to get him? That's
always been the case.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's where I'm not sold on the Celtics being able to do something with Marcus that they're going to feel good about, that they're going to get a good return on. Now, if it gets to the point where they realize, you know what, we're just not going to plan on re-signing him, we might as well try to get some assets right now for him, then that's a different conversation. But if we're talking about whether Marcus Smart has tremendous value to the point where teams are willing to give up fair market value assets for him, I don't think that's the case. Yeah. I just don't. I don't think teams are, because one, I think because of the kind of wear and tear that he's put on his body, I think that is something that teams are a little concerned about. Two, he's not making a ton of money, but if you make a deal for him, he's going to expect significantly more. Are you willing to commit to an $18, $19, $20 million a year Marcus Smart down the road? Probably not a lot of teams are willing to do that. So those are some of the things that if you're Danny Ainge, you got to be thinking about, how can I get value for the guys that I'm probably going to lose anyway, and get enough value where I can flip that into something of significance for my team sooner rather than later, because they need to make significant changes, not in terms of getting, top 10 player or anything like that. Significant changes as far as reconfiguring their roster. This team, the way they're constructed now, you can't have a Tristan Thompson as your starting center next year. You can't have, 3, 4, 5 guys, who you've been in your program for 2 or 3 years not playing. That doesn't happen. When guys are on your team for more than 2 years and they haven't played, they're not on your team anymore. Again, you're finding a new home for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's usually how that works.
Taco, Tremont, you look at Shimmy, he's been kind of in and out. You got to find a new home for those guys if you don't plan on playing them significantly. And there's a reason why you don't play them, because they can't help you win right now. And
very simply, from a value perspective, you're talking about a guy entering a contract year. Okay, Bobby, what did Evan Fournier in a contract year making $17 million net then get Orlando in return? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like, what
they got
assets?
2 second-round picks.
Second. That's nothing. That
was at the deadline, though.
I understand that, but you're going in to get a guy for a year who's a rental. Are you gonna give up real assets there?
See, that's why so many people differ on this Marcus Smart thing, is because everyone sort of has a different. In terms of his value, we're not quite sure what other teams think, and I think a lot of people, especially in Boston, a lot of people have different opinions on how valuable Marcus Smart truly is. I just don't know if during the offseason is the time you try to cash in on trading someone like Marcus Smart.
You're not going to get better. That's the problem with Marcus
and that's
Smart.
Nothing too. Yeah, right. You're not going to get better. Like,
so
you're going to have to.
That's what I said from the start. Marcus Smart does not. You are better for keeping him than anything you can get in return for him, because again, that's the Bobby Sherrod hit it on the head. That's always been the issue. It's not that Marcus Smart isn't a valued player around the league for what he does. It's that you don't value him enough to give anything of value for him. So that's the thing. You're not giving up first round picks or young assets for a player like Marcus Smart. And so he's much greater value to the Celtics right now. It'd be the same thing with Kemba Walker. You can't trade Kemba for equal value. What he gives you on the court is way better than what you're going to be able to get in a return, given his salary and age and injury.
And
so
ultimately,
that's why you're stuck running it back. I'm sorry, Josue, I kind of jumped in, but that's the whole ball game with there.
And ultimately, you're better off for keeping him on a fair deal after next year. I agree with you there. It's just, does this team have the stomach to bring everything back at the price that
but they have virtually no choice. That's the problem.
And that's the umbrella that they are going to be walking under as they bring these guys back. This is a team that we had to bring back because we didn't have a choice. And they're going to use the health and safety protocols. They're going to use injuries. They're going to use all of the explanations that we've talked about at some point to justify why they're doing that. And for them, for them and the players, it's going to be an opportunity to really find out whether these guys, frankly, get it. I mean, you're getting a second chance to run this back even when you probably didn't deserve one. Are you going to take advantage of the opportunity? Are you going to play with greater effort? Are you going to not be seen as a soft team? Because that's what they're seen as right now. Anyone that has the Celtics on their schedule feels we just play moderately hard, we're going to win. We're going to win. They have become that team that they would demolish in past years. That's who they are now. Right. And if they play Philadelphia in the first round, this will be the one year where Doc Rivers can take a 3-1 series lead and feel pretty good that they're going to go to the next round. Pretty good.
Man. Oh man, if the Celtics get one, if they get one,
that's assuming that they can get out of the play-in tournament.
Right.
Which is an assumption that I'm not sold on.
You know what's still an interesting one though when it comes to Smart? Lonzo Ball. I'm still thinking about ways to get it done. I'm working the trade machine over here.
Bless your heart, Bobby. Bless your heart.
I'm looking at John, waiting for him to get mad.
Well, I just don't think that the Pelicans are going to make that happen.
There's nothing. I
think it's more about the team that he's playing for than it will be the Celtics. I just don't think the Pelicans are going to get the kind of offer from Boston that will make them want to do something like that.
They might have no choice if he's leaving. So that's the thing. It's just, does Boston have the ability to route enough money elsewhere?
You're back into John Collins and Lonzo territory if those teams don't want to pay him. Those will be interesting names that come up because it's okay. Is this the point where they take salary matching and assets because they're going to let him walk anyway? You know, do you do that? Perhaps. That could be the only thing I could think of. But that's, I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, the two names you hear that they have the most flexibility to move going into next year is Thompson as an expiring, Smart as an expiring. The value there isn't great.
Can you imagine a GM of a rival market trying to sell to his fan base why he traded a really good player?
I think you can sell Smart though, especially if you're the Pelicans who play no defense whatsoever.
If you could get a second round pick for Tristan, yes.
I think
the reality is you have to give away a first round pick to get rid of Tristan, which you're not going to do that 1 year with that money, but you're not going to get anything.
Here's the thing. We go too far.
If you got a second round pick, you would ship him tomorrow.
I guarantee the Pelicans, the Hawks, the Mavericks, some of the most defensive challenge teams in the league with smaller guards and that need help defensively in their backcourts would be thrilled to have Smart, especially teams that are trying to form an identity and make a playoff run for the first time.
But not for anything real. They're not giving up high draft picks or young players. Nothing to get you better.
Depends who it is. That Pelicans one's interesting to me. It's just, can Boston route enough money elsewhere to work the contract in? Because you really like to pick up a guy like Ball who has future potential, who can stay here long term, and who can age with the Jays, as well as
you can do Ball with maybe Nesmith, Robert, and a couple of firsts, and make the salary matching. If you wanted to really unload everything that you have, if you threw every asset you have at it, maybe you wrestle a piece like that away, but you're giving away a bit,
Yeah, but Robert would have had to have been completely healthy now. Impressive showing. It would have been March times.
That being said, this is a small nagging injury, not one of the ones that were red flag injuries coming out.
He's got so many of those, John. That's the thing. It's like every other month there's a different nagging injury that he's dealing with.
Especially for big guys like of his stature. That's not good. It doesn't bode well for how historically typically pan out.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
I think he's going to be back for the playing game. I think he'll be good to go for it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, even if he's back, how long is that going to last? I mean, is he going to be back for a game? Is he going to be back for a quarter, a half, the rest of the tournament?
How long does that usually persist, John?
The turf toe is supposed to be, they just say anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. It's mainly a rest injury. He's not going to be within that range of it being well. You shoot it up and you play through some pain tolerance, and then it is what it is. I mean, he tried to give it a go and was a mess, after a few. It was very clear he just didn't have that spring. It's sprained ligaments in and around your toe. It's just painful. And it's usually, it's an NFL. You see it in the NFL. Right. Usually those guys are out a few weeks, but it lingers. Sometimes it kind of stays with people. So I don't know that by the time this season is over, which could be as soon as like a week, even if it's into round one of the playoffs, I don't know there's enough time for him to like be 1,000% off of this. He was on the court a few days ago. So, he hasn't even really begun resting.
All he really has to do is rotate defensively and make some passes offensively. And you're not going to get the full effect of him, but it should help to some degree.
But with Robert, I don't know if he can just mentally confine himself to do just those things. Because remember, he's a guy that plays above the rim. He's a guy that's
how he impacts athleticism.
And that turf toe is a bigger deal for him than, let's say, someone like Luke Cornett or someone like, who doesn't necessarily play off their athleticism.
Yeah, hugely. We'll just let everybody know we're not going to go all night tonight. It's a back-to-back, and it's this game, man. We're all going to, but we are going to do the locker room thing. We'll probably head over there in about 15 minutes or so, and chat it up with you guys a little bit. So make sure you download it. Make sure you join us. We want to hear from you guys. As always. It's a lot of the same story, but there's definitely a lot to discuss. How are we feeling? Feel confident they can even sneak into the actual playoffs at this point? Do you want them to?
It's not that hard. They have to win one game.
My biggest question is, do you even want to see it? Like, do you want to see them?
I do.
You want to see it because you want to see them humbled. I'm saying, right?
I want to see it because I want to see how they can handle when they're all that talk about your backs against the wall. That in the playoffs, that's legit. You have nowhere to turn. Whoever you are, whatever you are supposed to be in the biggest, greatest moment of the season, you are going to get exposed. We are going to see the varnish, the veneer is all off. You are 2 a.m, beauty. How are you looking at 2 a.m? When the deed has been done?
No, but
that's
I do.
What we're going to see.
I kind of want to see.
That's why I want to see it.
I want to see like 4 40-point losses to the Nets.
Oh, shit.
I really do.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that
because
I don't think this team is that bad. I don't think they're that bad.
No, but I want to see it because I want the offseason to be a real gut check. Like don't. Oh, we did our best, spirited effort, moral victory columns. No, I want
but then the moment
absolute abject humiliation. Okay, and that's why I want them to get into the playoffs wiped out.
Yeah, the moment Tatum gets hurt, you'll be like, see, why did they even compete? They should have bowed out when they had the chance. No, I want to see them play.
I want humility forced upon them.
I don't want all that, but I want them to be on the stage.
I like the Brooklyn series too.
I want to see what they're made of. I want to see it unfold and then see what they say after the game. After all that talk that they've been saying all year long. About back against the wall and all that. But then with the Jaylen Brown injury, it sort of gives them But then again, you want to see them have that nothing to lose attitude, but it's not happening. And if it's not happening now, it's not going to just happen. As soon as they start the playoffs.
You want to see that Nets one too because of what we talked about with them being able to go small and get rid of their centers. It being a matchup that I really wanted them to compete in all year, but they were just unable to. So from that perspective too, you want to actually see them be able to play up to a team like that and give them some trouble. And like you said, John, it's just going to be so staggering that if they aren't locked in, they're going to get annihilated in an embarrassing way. So that's the ideal one for me. Like you want to see them go up against that team right away and have that kind of challenge thrown at them.
Yeah. And I want to see them get destroyed.
4 40-point damn, John.
4 40-point losses.
Imagine.
Anything.
440s.
Anything. No, because that's payback. That's our payback. for having to endure this all year. Okay. We've suffered. Now it's time for them to suffer.
Now, is it better if they get that 12th to 13th pick? That becomes the question about the play-in tournament.
Of course it is. I mean, ultimately, yes. But I want to keep doing this sort of, I'm a friggin' masochist at this point. I want to keep doing these shows. I want them to be relevant and in the conversation. So I do want a round of playoffs here. But I do ultimately, I want to see them up against a massive challenge, and I want to see them.
Well, they're a playoff team, and that's what
I want to see. I want to see whatever happens. That's what I want to see. If they put up a great fight, that's a good thing. You feel a little bit better about something. If they get annihilated, great, because they deserved it. And I want them to head into the offseason with their tail between their legs, thinking about what a total failure this season was, and try to learn and come back next year and be like, we can't be that ever again. Can't be soft like this. We got, it's got to be a real gut check sort of summer for them.
Yeah. And you deserve a playoff spot, 4 games, if you're the 7th seed. Even with everything they've done terrible over the last couple of weeks, they still have a 2-game leg up with the tiebreaker on Charlotte. And the league has put a system in place to give a team like the 7th seed, Celtics here, a leg up on getting in. You get 2 chances. They're both on your home floor. You don't have to go anywhere. The other team that's coming in for your second try is off of a game traveling after already traveling possibly. So all the stuff is in place for you to win that game or win the second game at the very least and get in.
The problem, Bobby, is that because everything is pretty much set up for you to have an edge, this team doesn't play well when they have this false sense of we've got an edge. This team is going to have problems if they're playing Charlotte. There is that team, if I'm the Celtics, would scare the crap out of me, not because of how talented they are, but because they look at you the way all other teams in the league do at this point, and that is they're soft. We play moderately hard. We will beat them. And the Celtics, their response when teams have come at them like that is, yup.
yeah.
Yep. They don't fight back, Bobby. And Charlotte is coming in here to fight. I guarantee you they will not. They will not get blown up by the Celtics.
I'm not expecting a blowout win. You look at some of the.
If it becomes a fight, Bobby, who's going to win if it becomes a fight?
Well, that's the thing. Look at some of their wins this year. Some of their better wins, like the Spurs game, the Warriors game, even their most recent win against the Hornets, and even that awesome game that Tatum led late against the Wizards a couple months ago. They've played some inspiring games against that middle of the league class there. And I still think they'll have the talent advantage in that game. I think they'll finally scramble together the will at that point and have the bodies in place.
Well, why, Bobby? Bobby, that last point you made about scrambling together the will, what makes you think that's going to happen? Because I agree with you on the talent side. I think they are more talented than all these teams we're talking about. But that will to win, Bobby, what makes you think this team is going to have that going for it when we get to the playing game?
Because you have to, or you're going home. That's all there is to it in that game.
I think they might like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 1, 2, 3, Cancun.
Right. Like, let's get out of here. I'm done with this.
You think that's where the team's at?
Seriously though, Bobby, I hope that you're right. I really hope that you're right because I think this team inside they should have that desire and will to win. We've seen many of these core guys show that and display that. But this season, for whatever reason or reasons, it's just not there. And I'm not confident that it's going to all of a sudden manifest itself.
I'll tell you this.
Game. Yeah. You know who I feel good about delivering it, though, is Kemba. The way he's playing right now.
Great. Fine.
How much he wants to be in the playoffs individually.
But didn't him and Fournier and Tatum combine for like 80 points the other night and they still lost?
Yeah, they did.
True. They'll be playing more minutes collectively.
I'm not worried about Kemba bringing it. I'm worried about them finding a way to win. Forget Kemba could go 1 for 72. If they win by 3, good game. And he hits the one shot that wins it, great game. That's not how this team functions. That will to win, Bobby, that you're talking about, I'm spot on with you. That is huge. And that's what this team has not shown they have.
And I'm honestly not like, look, I said, when you're out there, you're going to play. You're not out there thinking like, I'm not going to try today because I want to lose. But it's like, how bad are you actually going to scratch, claw, fight to win? Or are you going to accept your fate and accept the outcome? Where you start to look at it and say, is losing the worst thing? You know, like if you don't, but that's really it. If you don't have the mentality that losing is the worst
thing. Like that last
thing
game in the AAU tournament, like, you know what?
Dude, I'll say this
for Mai Tais and Maui.
Yeah. I'll make my
You'd
own
be surprised how much your confidence or your fight to just
I'm not gonna lie. I'll make my own professional admission on this. Like every year in, year out, you know, doing what I've done for a living. When the Patriots are basically in the AFC Championship game every single year, and when they're there and they're playing, you're thinking like, oh, they're gonna win, and I'm gonna get to cover another Super Bowl. And it's gonna be fun. But there's also part of you like, man, that's friggin' long, and it sucks, and it's all day and night. And then those games that they lose, you're like, that's not so bad. I kind of got my life back, you know, like you can reconcile it, you know, like, but like, you're like, I actually don't mind the fact that like, I'm going to be able to take it easy a little bit now, you know, like,
because like when I was in Detroit and they were going to the conference final every damn year, you know, they've got a game 7 at Miami to go to the NBA finals. And this was in 2005. And I'm thinking they're not going to beat, you know, D Wade and
I really want to go through this. Yeah.
So my summer is about to start like in 4 hours. Damn it, they went out and won the game. Then you got to go to San Antonio, and needless to say, had no intentions of doing that. So you're making all these last minute appearances. And to John's point, the life that you thought you were going to have, gone.
No.
Just like that.
The Legends Vault is chiming in here to defend you, Bobby.
Game 7, the Cleveland game, Game 7, when Tatum dunked on LeBron. I told myself before, during, do not think the Celtics are going to win this game. You know, don't let them suck you into thinking that. The Celtics go on their run. Tatum dunks on LeBron, and for about maybe 7 seconds, I'm like, is this it? Am I going to cover my first NBA Finals? And I'm still trying to push it down. Nope. Don't get too excited. For like 6 minutes, I was there. Maybe less. And then I was like, nope, you know, you guys know how that story ends. But
yeah, I know. That was a rough one.
Well, you know how Nick feels about this team, and he's with me on this. Like, it's not that hard to get through this play-in tournament. It's not going to take a ton of sheer will. These teams that they're going to be running up against, and the Pacers are looking like a possibility here, given what the Hornets' schedule looks like, and the Wizards lost tonight.
Bobby, what would the Celtics be if they played the entire season without Rob Williams and Jaylen Brown? What would they be? The 11th seed, the 10 seed?
They would be Chicago Bulls.
You know, what would they be? Like, what are we talking about? Like, they're missing 2 hugely important players right now. Hugely important on a team that also lost Gordon Hayward from last year. And I understand Fournier is in to supplement a little bit there, but like this team would not be considered an absolute playoff lock if all they had was Jayson Tatum, Kemba Walker, Aaron Nesmith, you know, Pritchard. This was your lineup every single night. They'd be an also-ran. So
Chicago Bulls.
They'd be right. They'd be fine. But you're not a team with 2 All-Stars. You're a team with 1 All-Star. You're a team with a lot of different holes. You're a team without a true point guard. You're a team without a true center. You're a team without much depth. This team would be kind of a pushover. So we have to be real. Like, you got to stop thinking of what you're.
I'm not just thinking about the Celtics, though. I'm thinking about the Pacers without LeVert and Warren and all these guys falling apart the way they are.
Pacers are
the Wizards with a question mark about Beal. Right. Hayward, is Hayward going to play in this playing game? I don't know.
So. I don't think so.
He's not trending there because he's not even back on the court.
Yeah. So these other teams have question marks too.
You're right. And Bobby, and that's the thing that could certainly weigh in the Celtics' favor. But as we've talked about before, when we're talking about them going to the playoffs and doing some things there, they're going to get some breaks if they're going to make a legitimate run. Hell, even get out of the play-in game. They're going to need some breaks they have no control over. Like Bradley Beal not being available, for example. That would be a huge break. Gordon Hayward not being around for Charlotte.
Also, Miles Bridges is also iffy right now. So you're right. You got a couple of issues with those teams too.
And that will certainly impact their ability to win those games and could very well be the difference in them winning those games. But I'm not convinced that this team is going to play with enough will to win to beat those teams. And to your point, they don't need a lot of will to beat these teams. But which is, to me, the sad part about it. I don't even think, even if you set the bar ridiculously low, they can meet that.
This is my point. I'm not making a grand statement here about their potential. I just think that they can beat the Pacers or the Hornets or the Wizards in one game at home.
They can. I just don't think they will, based upon the way they played of late.
These three right here, They want vacation. I can see it.
No, I'm ready.
I want a competitive team. I want a team that's going to compete. That's what I want. That's all I've wanted all season.
Joe Sway's dreaming of an early bedtime.
No, man.
This 8 o'clock start killed us too.
I'm just thinking realistically, man. These guys, they've never even been through a season like this. You know, like they're itching. I mean, whether they know it or not, like they're itching for the finish line. You know, vacation time.
No, it is baffling that they lost this game tonight. Like, this is the kind of stuff that makes you worried that they're not there anymore and that they're looking beyond this season.
I don't know. I like I said, I didn't have as much venom for this game. Some things were head scratching. Again, this was a shit lineup they put out there, but you're still looking at things that bug you, which is, general level of effort, kind of.
Well, they went down by 13 sort of late. Yeah, it's like, all right, if you lose, that's one thing.
A bad start. Absolutely falling apart, getting outscored 22-7 in that stretch in the fourth quarter where the game got away from you. I mean, Tatum, whatever, puts on that late push, scores a bunch of points, 1 assist all night. As a team, was it 13 or 14 assists all night? Just weren't doing. Yeah, and again, I know who's out there on the floor. Just there was nothing encouraging about the way that they played. Again, Brad's begging them before the game, like, we just got to play with what we've got the best we can, and they still can't do that. Like, you expect a game when all your stars are out for everyone else who's in there in their place to come flying around, and it wasn't.
Jumping at the bit.
Yeah, and it wasn't. Not as much as you'd like to see. So
tough to see Nesmith struggle. Tough to
Everybody
see.
did. Fournier had a terrible shooting night,
Yeah, and again,
the shooting doesn't bother me as much as just guys playing hard defensively. If you go 0 for whatever and you play relatively hard effort-wise defensively, I'm good. Because I know that you're going to have nights where shots don't fall, but you have absolute 100% control over how hard you play defensively every night.
You do. This is a game I wish none of us had seen.
We have a few more to go.
Yeah, and it's going to be rough. So we're going to open up locker room in a little bit and go over there and hear from you guys and see. I'll challenge anybody coming over to locker room. Give me something good. What's something positive?
Let's get some positivity.
Tell me something good.
I'll give you a positive. Grant Williams +3, the only positive among the real Celtics rotation players tonight. I'll start it.
I thought we were going to make it through this whole episode without Grant.
You couldn't do it. You couldn't go the whole episode without bringing up Grant Williams.
There they go. They're on the locker room.
He actually went. I was bluffing. But Joe Sway, we can. We need you, buddy.
Come on, this is a show.
We're not talking Grant right now, okay? He was atrocious.
He played okay.
No, he could have been worse. That's true. But it's like the same thing, man. I feel like a broken record talking about him. If he's not making that 3-point shot, he's effective, but that just changes everything. Even if he hits a couple of threes.
What am I going to say, John? They're not building toward anything with these rotations, with these matchup-based decisions here. Every game's like a different vignette for Brad that he just mixes and matches things and experiments. And coming out of this year, I know injuries have something to do with it, but also I don't feel like there's a ton that they built this year. Like Pritchard and Nesmith built a good groundwork, I think. Don't know what's there to build on top of that, but there could be something. A lot of the young players stagnated or reached a point where they're probably not even going to be here this year. And as far as lineups and rotations go, I know Brad said he had an idea of what it was going to look like come playoff time, but I never got that sense at that point that they were perfectly set with what their starting lineup and their bench rotations were going to look like. And I think that's been one of the biggest issues with them and Brad all year.
It's nice like that. Like I wish, we've said from the start, I wish Brad just picked his guys and went with them. And like I said, we had that little stretch of a couple of weeks ago when it looked like it, like I said, where Nesmith was playing. Jabari,
can you imagine if they do this in the play-in game?
Yeah. And it was like, okay, great. I just wish he'd done that all year. Like these are the guys I want to roll with. So I'm going to force the issue. And that's where we were talking about with playing Nesmith and giving other guys minutes. Like these are the guys you're going to want to go to battle with. So just get them acclimated, get them used to the minutes you want them to play, get them used to the people they're going to be playing with, and just roll with it. The experimentation, the in and out and all of that stuff, I don't think did anybody any good.
But that was the problem, John. I think he never really showed his hand. You know, we kept thinking we thought we had it down, and then all of a sudden, you know, we thought Nesmith was in. He was in the circle of trust, and then he gets back-to-back DNPs. You know, it was tough for him, and of course, health doesn't, you know, injuries doesn't help that. But
I gotta warn some people real quick. We're gonna do locker room right now, but you might need to update your app before you jump in. If we can put the link in the chat if we haven't already and pin it, we're gonna be headed over there. Sherrod's already probably over there, but it's making me update right now, so I will do that and I'll head over myself too.
It takes 2 seconds,
It takes 2 seconds, so just do that and then come join us. But if you guys, while you're waiting to join the room, go update now. We'll be heading over and do that. And do that thing. So, guys, what do you think? Are they dropping these next two also?
Ooh. Wow, dramatic effect. I like it.
Bobby, that's you on as a second person, I think.
Yeah, it is. That was my strategy tonight, but didn't work.
He said that so way back. Yeah, it is. Sound like dude from Days of Confused. Yeah, it is. Matthew.
Yeah, all right.
There we go. Worked. All right.
Good work. All right, guys, I'm going to take off. I'm heading over to do some locker room with Sherrod. Josue, Bobby will wrap it up. Why don't you guys head over in about 10 minutes here and do the thing with us. I'm out. I'll talk to you guys.
Do you have a big question for us, or are we on our own?
I don't have a good one for you guys right now, so I think
that was it.
It'll be
the two.
Yeah.
I'll leave it to Josue tonight. I'll see what's on his mind.
What you got? What you got for you?
No, I was gonna see what you had for us here. I mean, I can't pull a ton from this one. Like, it's disappointing for me, and it was kind of based on what I just said. Is there a ton of hope for the young players on this roster growing into something? Because remember last night, Sherrod said, I want to see some veterans come in here. And we're like, probably not. They want to keep it cheap. They want to keep rolling with some of these young players and see if they can develop into something. Shemmy's obviously not going anywhere, like in terms of potential. Grant, I think we've seen him stagnate. Edwards certainly has. Romeo, who knows? Like he was a no-show out there again tonight. Like a lot of the players on this roster just don't seem to have that upside. They don't even show you flashes in games like this where they have plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, I feel like those are the ones that are on the bubble no matter what. I mean, those are the ones where you're like during the offseason, you know, if they stay, you're like, oh, okay, maybe they got something there. But I mean, I think at this point of the season and in the situation, the scenario Celtics are in right now, I mean, if we're not seeing Jabari Parker out there, if we're not seeing, you know, who else didn't play? I mean,
Taco?
Do they bring back Taco? Like, you know, again, these are conversations that Danny and Brad Stevens need to have. I mean, not to say that they didn't have a similar conversation before going into the offseason. I mean, I'm sure both of them agreed on Tristan Thompson. I'm sure both of them agreed on Jeff Teague. But maybe it's time to go back and thoroughly, you know, obviously Brad's going to go through the numbers and do analytics and all that. But, I mean, from the outside looking in, it just seems like guys like Robert Williams, you know, Evan Fournier, obviously we talked about him being a priority for them to bring back. But, I mean, Robert Williams, a healthy Robert Williams all season long, I still want to know what that looks like. You know, If you're the Celtics, you just traded away, or a couple of months ago, you just traded away your starting center in Daniel Tice. I'm sure they want to know what a full healthy season of Robert Williams looks like. And you saw the stride that he made this season, so makes it even more enticing.
The rookies and Rob showed you enough this year that you think there's another step for those guys. There's a handful of others
That's
here.
That's a good way to put it. The rookies and Rob, right? Nesmith, Pritchard. I think those are the three that the Celtics are.
But everybody else,
giving up on. They're not giving up on those three, right?
Everybody else is hurting you in the rotation now, and might not be going anywhere, which is tough.
Why isn't Jabari playing though? Like, why? Like, I know he's not gonna thrill you, but like, can he just get a couple of reps? I just don't understand the logic behind it if Robert Williams is out.
I don't understand it. They brought him in. I didn't have high expectations for him, but yeah, you want to see him play. And he hasn't.
Carson Edwards the only I need points in a hurry. Carson, like, is that his only his only go-to off the bench? Because it isn't anybody else, right? No one else has that role, and no one's flourished in it.
No, and that's kind of Parker's role in a forward sense or at center. It makes no sense.
So why not combine that production with Grant? I mean, that's the thing, though. Defensively, yeah, he's he's a bit of a liability. But we're talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, he can't get on the court against the the just lost 11 in a row Cleveland Cavaliers. Like,
he probably would have helped. And that's, again, you're not building anything if you're not playing him. You're not even increasing the chances, I think, of him fitting in next year. And who knows, he could have a great training camp. He could come in the next year healthy and fresh and turn around. But you want to see him meshing with some of these guys now. That's the reason why he's here. You would think he'd be able to play over Langford, Edwards, even Cornette. You know, I thought Cornette played well, but if I wouldn't be going crazy if Parker played over him in certain games. When they asked Brad about,
your boy clocked in damn near 20 minutes, man. I don't know about all that. A little too much Cornette for my liking.
Well, he does. He's done everything so far except make shots, which is tough because he gets open looks, really open looks. 1 of 5 here.
I saw those blocks, though. I'm not sleeping on that. I saw those defensive stops. I like that.
They asked Brad about Parker not too long ago, and Brad said that he hadn't been playing because some more guys were available, and now that less guys were available, you might see him more. And so it is kind of puzzling that they haven't increased his workload and opportunity since especially Rob is down now. They view him as a 4, as a 5, that kind of thing. So that opportunity is wide open for him there. And instead, Taco's gotten minutes. Cornette has gotten a ton of opportunity. Grant has played some small ball 5. And Parker is really the odd one out of the entire rotation right now. Is he hurt? Is he banged up? Is he on ice? I don't know.
I don't think that's the case. And I don't think he should have played against Miami either game. I don't think he could have given the Celtics much in that
But
matchup.
Tonight he could have.
But tonight, yeah. I mean, the third quarter, like, it's been the story for most of the regular season, but like that first half, the Celtics were there. The other second half, if you need some point production, I mean, just to close out the third quarter before he puts in Pritchard, which he likes to do, which I would prefer to see Pritchard sooner. But yeah, I don't know. I don't get it in a game like this.
I haven't gotten the rotations for about 2 weeks now, and I'm worried that they're going to go into the play-in game with a similar approach. Let's figure out what we have tonight. Let's bounce around different ideas. Right. And we're down by 15. Isn't that the biggest reason? Well, what do you think is the biggest?
Got Kemba, though, right? Kemba's playing well. It's like, he's going to need a little more than that.
Well, what's going to help them is they can tighten it up. They can play Kemba a ton. They can play Tatum a ton, as well as Fournier, as well as Thompson, probably. So that's going to help to some degree.
I got a question for you, Bobby, but go ahead.
But are you just going to be – here's my thing. These early deficits that we've talked about all year, it's got to be because of the starting lineups to some degree, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the strong – because we've been saying it before the season even started, how top-heavy this team is and how thin the bench is. And, I mean, Jeff Teague's not even on the team anymore, you know? Like that was supposed to be one of those guys.
He was another starter. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
Again, they didn't have 36 different guys available and not unavailable all year. They were mixing and matching starting lineups through those stretches where certain guys weren't available. Every single night they've had different ideas of how they want to attack these games. And the problem with that is you don't have reliable specialists. Like Grant is not a reliable specialist in most cases. Nesmith, when they wanted to go with him as a closer, he wasn't a reliable floor stretcher at that point, but they viewed him as that. Brad has viewed these guys as what they can be, and in many cases, they haven't even shown potential of what he thinks they can be.
Yeah.
But what was your question?
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you, before the game, did you see him, Brad seemed a little testy, you know, like he's had it with these questions. I think it was Corrales who asked, John Corrales, damn it, I just had it. What did he ask him?
He had a couple questions, so that probably didn't help.
Oh, man, I'm drawing a blank right now, man.
So what I heard was player availability and Corrales pushback against the back-to-back thing with Kemba.
No, that's what it was. Yeah, about Kemba. Yeah. Like I could say.
Ooh.
It's like if the Kemba worked, like why go against it and say, you know what, you're gonna play on this, gonna have a back-to-back in Cleveland. Like that wouldn't have been really smart. Like everything is working. We just saw the best stretch of games from Kemba that we've seen in the last 3 years. Like that's the one thing that works. So I mean, I can obviously go on. Brad's already probably a little edgy, and I thought he was gonna snap, man. I thought he was just gonna be like, "Why would I do that, John? Huh? Why would I do that?" Like I was waiting for it.
Then Brad went on the radio, and I think Sean asked him, Do you like doing this media? Like, you get a lot of the same questions this year. And Brad's like, I do about 50 minutes. I wish we could condense that a little bit.
That's a polite no from Brad right there. That's exactly what that is.
Yeah,
man, I don't blame him. I mean, I got to give him props. I mean, it's not that I doubted the Kemba Walker plan, but it was just like, it's sort of what we've been talking about the last week or so, right? You can't just turn it on in the playoffs. You can't just flip that switch. Well, he flipped it. He flipped it well before the playoffs, and it was essentially what the Celtics have been talking about all year long, even before the season started, when we first found out about the stem cell injection.
So I have 3 thoughts about it. It obviously worked, and that's good because it could work again next year and the year after that, and put him in position to be successful with this team through the contract, which would be great because he's been a really helpful contributor this year. But the in and out thing definitely didn't help their stability. I don't know if they would have been much better if he tried to play every game, but you did see them really miss him in certain spots in those back-to-backs, especially when they were missing other guys. And number 3, the pessimistic look at it is that you got it this year. Maybe you won't get it next year. The benefit of him being fresh, healthy, and productive. This might have been that last shot at it from him. And
it's like what we were saying about Hayward before he went down last year. Remember, it's like, man, you got a full season of like the best Hayward, the best Hayward we saw in Boston. Arguably compared to the guy in Utah. I mean, completely different roles, but for what he did in that slot, that 3rd-man role, a 4-man role, like it was huge. No other team had a weapon like that in the East. Yeah.
Well, what worries me is that if you use that productivity on this year, if you receive that rather, and you don't get it next year, it was almost a waste this year because they're not going to get anything out of how great he's playing and how great he's looking at the end of this year, unless they can make a little noise here at the end. And he might be a big part of that. I still think he could be the key.
I thought you were going to say, unless they could turn that into trade value and.
Do you want to trade him? I said this about a month ago now. I'm done with the trade ideas for him. I just want to keep him around and get what you can get out of him because he's been awesome.
No, I agree with that. No, I'm just saying, I thought you were going that route.
Yeah. Because, and I heard people like Bernardoni said, maybe they can trade him for Horford. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to give him up for nothing.
Yeah. I don't mind Kemba. I mean, obviously the health is a concern, but from what we've seen, does that carry over to next year? If it does, that puts the Celtics in a good position. And listen, I talked about a couple months ago, people, on the comment section laughing at me about the Pritchard thing. Like that's inevitable. I don't think it's an if. I think it's a win. Like when he's ready to take over, who's to say Kemba won't flourish?
Could be a transition,
in a 6-man roll off the bench, just pure scoring, point production that this team has essentially hasn't had, right? At least until Isaiah Thomas turned into a starter. I mean, when's the last time they had a 6-man that they could rely on for solid point production? Who wasn't thrust into the starting lineup? You know what I mean? Like I think again that's down the road, but keeping Kemba around was the worst thing in the world. It's just that contract. I mean, we knew that heading into this that there's a good chance that he's going to stay on the books for the Celtics.
And people always freak out about the money at this point, and this goes back to what we were talking about with Smart and Fournier. The money's the money at this point. They're going to be in the tax. They're going to be spending a lot of money on this team, so they might as well spend the money to have it be the best team possible. Giving up Kemba for role players or money filler coming back or even another bad contract coming back at this point is counterproductive. And like John said with Smart, you don't want to give up Smart for nothing either. Right. So I think ultimately you just run this back and give yourself some options to get out of stuff into next year. Like you could always trade Smart into next year. You could always fire Brad if the season starts as a disaster next year. But you got to give this team a shot to get it right. Because I do think, we haven't seen them respond to the humbling of this season, but an off season to think and reflect on it, everything that happened could be productive. These guys probably took like a night in, night out approach this year with how condensed everything was. They weren't trying to get too high off the wins. They weren't trying to get too low off the losses. And I don't think there was a lot of in-season time for reflection, adjustments, and certainly not practice.
Not practice, yeah. That's another thing, too. We haven't talked about that enough with Brad. I mean, he's the kind of coach that
he's a practice coach, right?
All about, yeah. Like, he's not going to just motivate you with his speeches or his, let's win one for the Gipper, all that stuff. Like, he's not that kind of coach. He will make a team better with the more time he gets with them. And obviously,
and that's
if 80% or 85% of the time you're spending with the team is just playing games, that's not how Brad works. Brad relies on that practice time more than anyone in the NBA, more than most coaches, I think, in terms of how effective he can be.
And that's a good point on Parker too. How many practices has Parker had? 1, I think.
Yeah.
So Brad probably doesn't have a sense that he knows what he needs to do here yet in terms of the system and the play calls and everything else. Now that once he throw him in right away. So that's all we got on tonight. Next is
we're being summoned.
Minnesota at a to be determined time, I believe. So the weekend games haven't been scheduled yet in terms of times. They try to throw everything in the afternoon on Sunday with the Knicks game. They wanted everything to be done by like 4:30 so we could do like a playoff preview, I guess, 10 the week. But the teams freaked out because they all had to do COVID testing at 5, 6 a.m. if that was the case, especially on the West Coast. So those games will be spread out. We might get a night game on Sunday, possibly. So we'll see when those times come out. But Saturday is Minnesota. Sunday is New York, and that is the season. Celtics will be the 7th seed. We'll see if they get the Pacers, the Wizards, or the Hornets. All 3 of them are in play at this point for that first playing game. But looks like we'll have a playing game to go to, or 2 at TD Garden here. So Joe Swipe Pavone, Bobby Manning, we will see you over at Locker Room. Ooh.